I hate Ghoul. I think everyone hates Ghoul. This isn't the first time you've heard people say they hate the character, but this is the first time I'm personally making a video on my reasons. I'm making this so that I can link the video for whenever people ask me so I don't have to explain or forget the exact same conversation starting points every single time. But just so everyone's clear, they take no effort to play, have multiple design flaws I'm about to get into, and worst of all, the screaming. So starting off, the main thing that I really want to talk about is the loss of momentum on hits. For those that don't know, the way that DBD works is that when you hold the W key, you don't immediately move at 100% movement speed. You slowly build up to it in about half a second or so from 0 to 0.5. So when Ghoul latches onto with the free auto-aim hit onto your body, you lose all momentum speed because you're stuck into the animation, and then you have to go ahead and get re-upped to the maximum movement speed as a survivor. Now, this normally isn't a problem for killers that have this issue. For instance, Deathslinger also does the same thing with the really fast pulls you towards him, except you don't go down to 0 because you're not stuck, you're still moving a little bit, unless you don't move the chain at all. But either way, you don't actually go down strictly as 0, so it's less time. But we need to talk about Deathslinger's kit. The way that Deathslinger works is that he shoots his spear, and then he has to hit you, and then he reels you in, and then he has to reload. Ghoul has a movement ability that shows up in like 3 seconds that immediately launches him across the entire map, depending on what map it is, not indoor ones, but outside ones. So when you lose those precious seconds and don't get the full injured speed boost like you're supposed to, that causes problems against a killer that can instantly travel and get on you again, for other reasons as well that I'll get into in just a moment. Second off, when they do hit you, you instantly get put into deep wound. Why Ghoul has deep wound is beyond me, because usually for killers that have it, it's because they need the slowdown, such as Legion or Deathslinger, but for Ghoul, they don't need the slowdown because they have insane map mobility. The reason Deathslinger has it is because he's a very strong 1v1 killer, and if you need to ditch somebody, or if you get a long-range spear hit and break it against the wall, it makes sense to get rewarded for that. For Legion, they just hit and leave, and it buys them a little bit of time instead of just being injured. Plague makes it to where they can't heal, and also if they want to get rid of the infection, they get the corrupt purge instead of mending like Legion does. For Ghoul though, it doesn't make sense because it takes, at least if you're healthy. If you're injured and then they hit with your power, I could make sense for getting deep wounded then, but the fact that it's guaranteed every single time is simply beyond me. It also counters dead hard for like no reason. I don't really know why. And the only benefit of it is that then you get to use Made for this more often, but Ghoul shouldn't have deep wound when in comparison with everything else in their kit. Their ability to vault pallets, I hate every killer in the game that can do this. Yes, that includes Legion. Yes, I have Legion P100. I think any killer that can vault pallets has a bad design in that aspect. It shouldn't be a thing. The fact that you get hindered when they vault means that there sometimes is no correct winning. I'm recording this in December, so with the current 50-50 pallet thing, you're already playing a 50-50, and now with Ghoul being able to vault pallets, it's more like an 80-20 in the killer's favor. Everyone says they shouldn't vault pallets, even Ghoul players say they shouldn't be able to vault pallets. We're nearing a year of this character being out. Let's remove it. Come on. You remove Chucky's ability as Scamper within like a month, and then you keep adding killers that have the option to keep vaulting pallets. Krazu shouldn't be able to either, by the way. I don't even think Wesker should. Give him a third dash instead. That sounds a lot more fun. I'll bring Wesker back up in a moment. You only need 1 frame as Ghoul to hit their power. So when in comparison to actual ranged killers that take effort, you have Unknown, huge effort, like B tier at best killer, like literally just B tier at best, typically C tier against a good team, and you have to actually be able to land your power in a radius, and you have a lot of frames to react as a survivor. I would even say you have a borderline 4 or 5 seconds to dodge each projectile. That's a lot of time when dodging a projectile. Huntress is a bit more like 1 to 2 seconds, but you know, you have time. For Ghoul, if they have 1 frame of their auto aim on you, they hit you. Why is it only 1 frame? That's why you keep getting hit behind walls as Ghoul, because if you mess up for 1 frame and the Ghoul presses 1 button, they automatically injure you, and then that goes back into the deep wound thing. So you're basically guaranteed to be deep wound every single chase no matter what, because of the 1 frame hit. Why is it only 1 frame? Make it more than that. This goes also into, I don't understand why Ghoul can hold their power for so long. So not only do you have a 1 frame insta hit, but also Ghoul can hold their power for so much longer. I'm pretty sure it's the length of Wesker with the golden egg add-on for being forced to hold it. So literally, if you mess up for 1 frame within like 5 seconds of walking around a rock, because you have to last for 5 seconds, they then automatically hit you no matter what, and you just auto lose that engagement. And yes, there is a counterpoint of just be comfortable injured. Some killers you have to play injured against. Ghoul is not one of them because of their insane map mobility, and another reason that we'll get into in a few moments. But these just combine into making the first half of the chase really agitating. And it's not like Ghoul doesn't have a good anti-loop ability, because they do. So why? Ghoul's collision on objects also isn't consistent, so not only can they hold their power forever, not only is a 1 frame hit from healthy to injured, but since they have no consistent hitbox on objects, sometimes they slide around objects, sometimes they get stuck, sometimes they get yeeted 50 meters to the right of an object. There is no consistency for their power. So then it just makes me confused as a survivor of, I have no idea what's gonna happen, and this goes into the next point I want to say. Moving your mouse left or right, which is why this killer doesn't have, why I don't think they take any effort to play, because their skill ceiling is moving your mouse in either direction, and that's supposed to be skillful. But if you move it to the right, like if you're looking at LT wall and you move your mouse right, you're gonna go on the outside. But if you move it left, you go on the inside. And as survivor, you have no time to react to that. You're just guessing. And I know the Ghoul has to guess, but since you're always enraged in chase, so as long as you get 2 different dashes, you can always make up for it. And then that goes into the other reason that I want to actually spend time on instead of just listing it as a complaint. But because you're not consistent on collision, survivors don't know what to do, because there's no consistency in facing a Ghoul, because they either get stuck. If they move their mouse left or right, which you can't react to, they might just move past the object that a different Ghoul player or the Ghoul earlier that match priorly got stuck on. So then it's just inconsistent. And I don't like when things are inconsistent. It's one of the issues I have with playing my character, Huntress, because sometimes hitboxes or invisible walls get added and removed every single update. And when that happens, it causes a lot of frustration for me, because I'm like, I tried that shot 2 patches ago, and now it doesn't work. Or now it does work. Like the Orman trash cans on the outside of Maine were bugged for 3 years to have a invisible wall that blocked projectiles that went up to the top of the building. And then it got removed one update, and I'm just like, oh, I can hit over those now. And then it got added back, and now it's removed. Again, it was added back for like 1 patch in between, so it's just really confusing. But Huntress's power itself is consistent in what it can and can't hit. Ping does change that, I will admit. In terms of hitboxes, it's a consistent, projectile of what it can and can't hit around. It's just learning hitboxes to know what it can do. For Ghoul, with that lack of consistency, there's no learning for the survivor. There's no learning that, oh, I can use this object to block the Ghoul's trajectory so that they get stuck there, and then that buys me distance to the next tile. There's no learning that. You don't. Which, by the way, in terms of buying distance to the next tile, sometimes it's faster for the Ghoul to break a pallet to get their power back than for the full cooldown. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why they did that. I think they should just make it add 5 seconds onto their cooldown, not make a new cooldown. That doesn't make sense at all. I mean, that's another complaint. Where are we at? 8, 9 of these things? I don't know. Anyway, the one that I really want to spend time on is, why can Ghoul cancel their power? So you have a killer that can hold it up for like 4 seconds, 4 or 5 seconds or whatever, in terms of getting a free hit from healthy to injured, so they're already guaranteed. And then if you are injured and they know that they can't get a free hit there, they just cancel their power and then hit you anyway? How does that make sense? And I know a large part of it is, oh, Ghoul's an M1 killer, they can't down their power, that's why they should be able to do that. They don't care. It doesn't make sense with any other mobility killer. So Ghoul, at the end of the day, is a mobility killer, right? That is how I would classify them. They're a killer who uses mobility to their advantage. Other killers that do that are like Blight or Wesker. You wonder what Blight and Wesker have to do when they want to end their power to get an M1? Sit there and wait. Ghoul gets to press a button early. And this goes for any dash killer in the game. Like, you can't think of another killer that doesn't have to wait out their power or cancel their power to swamp to an M1. Bubba, for instance, when you are doing your dash with the chainsaw, you are forced to sit there and wait for the chainsaw duration to run out or bump into an object. You can't just press a button to end it early. Billy, you have to let go of your power and then charge it again. You can't just press a button to cancel it early and instantly be able to M1. You have to sit there through the animation and wait or miss, things like that. I would go so far as to say, like, Demo, when you're shredding, can't cancel, because Ghoul can cancel mid-animation. Or at least it feels before their animation's fully done, because the moment they hit the ground again, they can cancel, but then the movement slide from the survivor point of view doesn't immediately end. So then it looks like they're canceling mid-ability. I learned that it wasn't them canceling mid-air, it was them canceling the moment they hit the ground and then slid, but then their ability's canceled, so then you get hit. Imagine a Demo could do that mid-shred, so that when they land next to you, they could instantly M1 you even though they missed. It would counter crouch teching. And yes, there's two ways to do this. They could theoretically buff all these other killers instead of nerfing Ghoul. I'd much rather they nerf Ghoul. And I want to make it clear, I know how to counter Ghoul before we get into complaining about the add-ons, which even the Ghoul players know the two I'm about to list. I know how to counter the killer. I know how to play around tiles. This does not make the killer fun. This does not suddenly fix all the issues I just listed for why I hate this character. I know certain other characters have the exact same issues. I said earlier, Huntress is inconsistent with ping. I'm aware of that. I know that that's a problem. That's for every projectile or hitbox killer in the game. That's just going to be a thing with ping. I'm aware of that. I know Blight, depending on your level of skill or your mouse DPI, is inconsistent on how far they can turn. I'm aware of that. That is a problem with Blight. I'm not going to defend Blight. Blight needs nerfs too. However, all those killers don't have as many issues as Ghoul does. Or at least they're a more match to match. Like Blight, for instance, has a few add-on issues or the ability to stack speed add-ons, things like that. I think those are problematic, but not every Blight, every game runs double speed add-ons or one speed or speed at all. Every single Ghoul has these base game abilities every single match. So I have to deal with this every single match. You don't always get a laggy Huntress. You don't always get a Blight with different speed add-ons. You don't always get a Billy with like overcharge buffs, or is it overcharge? Yeah, whatever. Y'all know what I mean. You don't always get a Pinhead with Engineer's Thing. You don't always get a Trapper with Bloody Coil. Those aren't always guaranteed. But when you talk about base kit issues like this, those are guaranteed every single match, and it causes so much frustration. Last thing I want to list is that I know everyone hates these. It's the Eerie Mask add-on that's free barbecue, and then the Centipede add-on. Everyone knows that these needs nerfs. I don't even think I need to cover these really, but I'll do it just to cover all my bases. Problem with Centipede is that it's free bamboozle when you're enraged. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's 10 seconds, bamboozle is 15. The 5 seconds, because it's from 10 to 15, as things get longer in that context, they become, the value gets worse the longer that the duration is. So I don't really understand the point of having bamboozle as an add-on. Like, if they were running it as a perk, I could get it, but this does mean that Ghouls don't have to run bamboozle as a perk, and that's part of the problem. If they were to suddenly give this, like, imagine if Bubba didn't have to run bamboozle every game and they could just slap on an add-on instead. The meta for Bubba would be beast marks, and then the bamboozle add-on, unless your name is Epidemi. In that case, you still will run beast marks and eerie flesh. But then the meta changes for that character, and then they get another perk slot, and perks are stronger than add-ons on average. So it just doesn't make sense to have that. And then the other add-on is the Mori's Mask, I think it's called, or something, which is free barbecue, because when you're in rage, it makes all survivors further than 40 meters scream, revealing their locations. Why does that exist? There's no downside to that add-on, by the way. Just so we're all clear, there is no downside to the Eerie Mask add-on. You wanna know the other Ghoul add-on? You have to use the third leap, so you have to be enraged, and then specifically vault a pallet with the third leap. Specifically the third one, not the first, not the second, the third one. And then it breaks the pallet. But only when you use the third leap. How does that make sense? Like, that one's so situational, and you have to use the two movement leaps, and then you get the Eerie Mask add-on that is free barbecue for being in rage, which you're guaranteed to be in every single chase, because it's not hard to get, and it's just like, why? What is the decision making behind that? You want to know other Eerie add-ons that exist? If we go to Xenomorph, I hate acidic blood I have a whole thing. I don't like any add-on in the game that punishes survivors for doing counterplay. Acidic blood is one of those. But here's the difference in Eerie add-ons. While in crawler mode, so you have to be able to use your M2, whenever a survivor stuns you by any means within 20 seconds of exiting the tunnels, they get injured and enter deep wound. So you have to exit a tunnel, dodge off flame turrets, the survivor has to stun you within those 20 seconds of that happening, and you can't get knocked out of your M2 ability. Just so we're clear, that is how that add-on works. Ghouls is hook somebody. The main issue with these add-ons is that then you get into every single Ghoul player having like just all gen slowdown or like blood favor or something, because you have no reason to run stealth perks, because Ghoul is naturally a loud character and their power is very loud, so it doesn't make sense to run those. They can basically anti-heal doesn't make sense, because while they get injures pretty commonly, a lot of those injures are with their powers, so then those perks don't activate for things like Mangled or Sloppy Butcher or anything. Their abilities are already pretty anti-loop, so while you can run things like Brutal Strength, Enduring, Bamboozle and stuff, you don't need to run things like Dissolution or other things of that nature. My mind's drawing blanks right now, but most Ghouls just run 4 gen slowdown, which normally on killers like Clown isn't that good of an idea, but with all the other things I just listed of Ghoul having an inconsistent chase power and deep wound and the ability to hold it forever and having a really nice anti-loop ability, it just doesn't make sense to run anything but gen slowdown or things that make hooking faster like Agitation or Forever Entwined. So for instance on Clown, if you run 4 gen slowdown, you're probably gonna lose, because if you run Brutal Strength, that is equal to or better than like 2 to 3 gen perks because of how his power works. For a Ghoul, there isn't anything like that, so you only run gen stuff and then maybe Blood Favor if you want easy follow-up hits. Anyway, I hate Ghoul. If any Ghoul players want to explain why any of the stuff listed above is not a core issue from the survivor point of view and why the character needs it, feel free. I'm gonna take it with a bunch of salt though, because you play the character. Do I think behavior should trust my decisions for this character? No. Because if I had it my way, Ghoul would have no movement at all, like any slide ability from using his power like it was on PTB. So I don't think people would enjoy that. I'm well aware that if I were a balanceless killer, people would hate him. They would drop the character, they would no longer play the character. However, I can't help but feel that people only like the character because haha speed and haha I like winning. Dude, honestly, the more that, I really need to end the recording and actually just work on the video, but the more I think about it, the more agitated I get, because I'm like, I watch people post Ghoul clips online, and I don't think they realize, it's like watching a good nurse, you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh yeah, you sure did blink well. Like, does blinking take effort or skill? Learning it initially, sure, but then after like long blinks or prediction blinks, it's like sharpening a sword. You learn how the sword initially, and then when you know how to use it, you just have to do upkeep. You sharpen it to make it like slice easier, cut, stab, whatever. That's what the whetstone's for. So you're taking a whetstone to your skills and you're making them sharper. That is how nurse players are. No one's gonna look at a nurse at a high level and be like, God, that took so much effort to get it down with double blinks. That's every Ghoul clip I see. Once you learn the basics of the character, you just have to take a whetstone and refine your skill. There's no more learning after that, because there's no consistency with the power to learn of what works and what doesn't work. I'll use my own character as example, Huntress. You have to learn every single hitbox in the game to get a hit with their power. And there's a lot of like small hole shots that you have to learn. You have to learn macro playstyle. You have to maybe go for prediction hits, like it's one of the reasons I don't play comp. Say all the survivors are spread out on the gens, you just got a hook, you enter chase with a new survivor. Realistically in comp, you wait until a survivor enters chase before you get an unhook, because that makes the killer not able to pressure the hook without losing a chase, and then that person gets away scot-free, and then they have to get back in time, things like that. So for Huntress, what you can do is that when you enter chase, you can acknowledge in your brain, hey, they're gonna be unhooking real soon. Do like have a visual line on that hook for a hatchet hit. That's the really high detailed effort version of proxy camping. But you also have to keep in mind while walking around the map, different objects that could block the hit, if there's something in the way from your angle. Maybe you want to chase a survivor that lets you maybe get a hit on the hook compared to chasing other people. Things like that. That's really good knowledge. For Ghoul, they don't have anything like that. There's no high effort learn map to use your power well or to get a hit that you might not be able to otherwise. It is point and click adventure sim that gets carried by a bunch of base game issues that a lot of players hate, and I hate Ghoul, like the title says. Oh, okay. No, I love when killers bug out. That's super rewarding, yeah.